the last part of this sort of anti-aging little formula we're putting together was body fat. It's, as you say, it's almost like a perfect storm because muscle volume is going down as body fat is simultaneously coming up. What strategies are we using to cope with that? Is it as simple as reducing our base caloric intake daily, or is there more advanced strategies?
There's a lot to it. If somebody's actually trying to lose weight as opposed to just maintain weight, that's a different ballgame altogether. I won't go into all the details. If we're just trying to maintain weight, not gain weight as we age, thing to do is number one, cut back on carbohydrate in your diet, especially high glycemic carbohydrate, which means mostly starches and sugars. You just need to cut back. I'm not telling you to cut them out. I'm not saying become a Buddhist monk. All I'm saying is just begin to cut back on eating that type of food, because that's the sort of food that's going to cause your body to celebrate, because it's going to be able to put on more fat. You don't want that. You want to reduce the options for your body to put on fat. Place to start is by cutting back on, those are called high glycemic carbohydrates or high glycemic index carbohydrates. So that's the first step. Number two is eat more protein to replace the carbohydrates you cut back on. As we get older, we need more protein. In fact, the research I'm now seeing and have been seeing for maybe the last 10 years or so suggests that older people do need to eat more protein than what we thought 10, 15, 20 years ago. We need more protein. So to give a good example, so we're going to increase your protein intake, but decrease your high glycemic carbohydrate intake. What that's going to mean is you may be able to actually lose weight by doing that, because that's those two things fit together very nicely. If you've been eating a lot of high glycemic and not much protein, making that change is probably going to cause you to lose weight.
I actually find that as soon as you're starting to become aware of your protein intake and you're looking to get, 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, in and around that, like for me, that's around 100 grams of protein a day. And if you break that into 3 square meals, 33 grams of protein per meal, it actually doesn't leave a lot of space left for eating a lot of these high glycemic index carbs without going way over your daily caloric guidelines.
That's true. Yeah, one of the things I always recommend that athletes do is when they're doing a long workout, a hard workout, as soon as they get done, come back in and make a protein shake. So you start off, and those usually have like 25 grams of protein in them right there. So you're starting the day off, if you're riding in the morning, you're starting the day off pretty early with putting some protein into your body right after workout, which some research has shown is beneficial for helping to build muscle mass also. And the nice thing about protein is it doesn't impact your body the same way carbohydrate does in terms of gaining weight. There's actually a research study that I just read the study the other day. It was very interesting on this. The researchers took a group of athletes, and for 8 weeks, they had them eat 800 more calories per day from protein. They kept their diet the same, but they added 800 more calories of protein per day. After 8 weeks, they didn't gain any more weight. Their weight stayed the same. Now, had they been taking in a lot of starch and sugar, I can guarantee you they would have gained a lot of weight with 800 calories per day being taken in. There's a big difference between protein and carbohydrate, especially high glycemic carbohydrate. You need to realize that. And as you get older, especially, focus more on the protein side and less on the carbohydrate, sugar, starch side.
Excuse the short interruption, but I wanted to find a way to bring our little community together, to problem solve, to share training advice, and to support each other in what can sometimes be a lonely road as we all chase health, happiness, and longevity through cycling. To facilitate this, I've set up a Discord channel. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. It doesn't cost anything to join. It's totally free. Plus, I'm also picking out random winners for spot prizes inside the Discord channel. If you'd like to join it, click on the link down below. Another thing I've anecdotally noticed with aging athletes, and I put this question up on my Twitter a few days ago, kind of in advance preparing for this podcast, it's the injury proneness of athletes post 40. Is there a particular reason for this, or is it like neglect of the body over a long period of time just as coming to this crescendo where they're starting to pick up more niggly injuries?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a combination of both. There's the athlete, typically as we get older, we have more problems with tendons, for example, or joints. They take more. They're not as able to deal with the stress that they did when you were younger. When you were younger, you could do a lot of things that you can no longer do without putting stress on a joint or a tendon or a muscle. So you have to be somewhat more careful as you get older. I took a fall doing a bike tour in France, so about 3 years ago. And I took a fall coming down the stairs in the hotel we were staying in and injured my knee. And to this day, it still bothers me, but I can guarantee if I was 25 years old, it would have healed up and gone away.
Yeah.
But now it still bothers me here. Like 3 years later, I'm still experiencing some difficulty from that knee because of that fall. So we're just more prone to things as we get older. So that's a big part of this is our bodies just are less able to deal with the stress of something like that fall I took.
I seen a crazy statistic. I'm not sure if you follow Peter Attina's podcast, The Drive, but he was talking on that. I'll probably butcherize the statistic, but breaking your hip was the leading predicator of mortality. If you break your hip, there's a huge statistical chance that you'd be dead within 12 months. It's a bizarre statistic. It's like there's a 25 or 30% chance that you're going to be dead within 12 months of you breaking your hip. Not related to the hip injury, but it just shows it's a leading indicator of mortality. When I heard this statistic, I was blown away by it.
I agree. In fact, that's how my mother died. My mother was a very active person my entire life. She used to go out for walks after supper every night. She was very active. And then she got to about her late 80s. It was probably about 87, I think it was. One winter, she got out of her car at the shopping center and fell down on some ice and broke her hip. And 2 years later, she was gone. That was just the sort of thing that I agree with 100%. That's one of the worst things that can happen to you as you get older is breaking your hip. Again, that's one of the reasons I suggest you do a lot of weight training to prevent that sort of thing from happening. And exercising, like riding your bike, helps prevent that also.
Yeah, I guess our physical health and our mental health are so inseparable. I look at my dad who has some compromised mobility issues at the moment. He has a clot in his leg. And it's a relatively minor physical condition, but I've watched the deterioration that's had on his mental health, and it's profound.
Yeah, it really is. My mother was not the same person after that. She began to have other complications that set in health complications in her life, and that's what eventually led to her demise.
If you enjoyed this little clip from the podcast, you can check out full episodes of the podcast on any podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, you can click up here for another video that I know you're going to love. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you next day.